Okay, class, in this lab, we're going to set up our NAT router. Um, in later classes, we're going to reconfigure it to do something differently, but for right now, I'm just going to set it up so we have connectivity for the rest of our network. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have my lab already copied. I've selected the lab over here, and it's already activated, and I'm going to power on the NAT router. I'm waiting. It's turned on, so now I'm going to go to console. I'm going to pause the video while it's booting up. The first boot is always longer than the rest of the boots. Okay, my NAT machine is fully booted. If during the break, I went and opened up my network map. I went to our class, and on the right hand side, I scrolled down until I got to Final Skills Exam. Then I clicked on my network map. So what we're doing is setting up this machine right here. And I have three interfaces, one connected to the internet, one connected to the private network, and one connected to the DMZ network. So I'm going to go back to my console. I'm going to click on Control Delete to sign in. I'm going to type our standard password. First time I sign in, I'm going to click Yes to loosen my firewall. I'm going to go to Local Server. Then click on any of the three network cards. Now I have three network cards and I don't know which one is attached to which. If I double click here, then go to Details, I can see I have a 10 address here. So I know this is my public interface. I'm going to go back to my map. I know I'm getting an IP from the school, so that's this interface right here. So I'm going to call this one public. Now I don't know which one is which. When you set up yours, it's not going to match mine, so you have to look and do what I'm doing. You don't want to mix up your network interfaces. So I'm going to go to back to lab. I'm going to expand my virtual machine so I can look at all the settings for NAT. I have three network cards. Public has a MAC address ending in 56. The private one has a MAC address of 8A, and the DMZ for me ends in 91. So I'm going to go back to the console. Double click here. This one is A8 for me, so this one is private. So I'm going to relabel that private. So this one must be DMZ. The only way to find out for sure is to look at the MAC address on the virtual machine and compare them to the MAC addresses of the network interfaces. If I double click on an interface and click detail, I can see that MAC address. So you're going to match the MAC addresses inside the virtual machine with going to go back to lab. With the MAC addresses assigned to the virtual machine on the outside. So this this NIC is attached to the public network. This NIC is attached to the private network. This NIC is attached to the DMZ network. This will be the only machine in this network that has multiple network cards. But it's going to be a NAT router, so that's what it does. It connects networks together. So it needs multiple network cards. I'm going to go back to console. So for this network right here, we're going to use 172.17.0.0/16 network. For this network here, we're going to use 172.16.0.0/16 network. So I'm going to give this an IP in this network. I'm going to give it the first IP in this network. For this interface, I'll give it the first IP in this network. And this will be the gateway for all these machines. This will be the gateway for all these machines. So I'm going to go back to my virtual machine. So for public, I'm going to give it an IP of, and everyone can use the same IPs, 10.0.0.2. So this network right here, I'm going to go back to lab. Actually, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to go back to my network map. Is the network assigned to us by the school? That's not something you're going to know automatically. It's something I've been that I have experience with, so I know what network this is that is assigned to us. Now, the DNS servers I'm going to use are going to be these two. They're not set up yet. So basically, I'm going to go out to the internet here, which is 10.0.0.1. That's the router for the school. I'm going to use 172.16.0.2 and 0.3 as my DNS servers. So these will be my DNS servers. These will be the gateway. So I just chose an IP that was within that public subnet, which is the second IP. The first IP is used by the school's router. I'm using the second IP for this network interface. I'm going to point to the school's router as my gateway. I'm going to use my two DNS servers. Once I have them set up, we'll resolve names for this machine. So for the private network, I'm going to give it an IP that's appropriate for that private network. 172.16.0.2, excuse me, 0.1. So basically, I'm going to give it the first available IP for this network. I'm assigning the first available IP to this interface for this network. That's the subnet mask for that network. It's just a default class B address. And this machine should only get one gateway. So if I put a gateway on this interface here, these two interfaces shouldn't get a gateway. Only one gateway per computer. So right now, this interface has a gateway, so this one doesn't. I always put the gateway on the interface closest to the internet. So in this case, this is the interface closest to the internet. And again, I'm going to use these two machines to resolve names. Click OK, close. And for the DMZ, so for this interface right here, I'm going to give it an IP appropriate for this network. It's going to be your responsibility to print out this diagram and write down all your IP settings. So this is going to be 172.17.0.1. This one will be 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. This will be in the 172.17.0.0 network. I'm going to give this one the first IP in that network. Again, it doesn't get a gateway because I already have a gateway in this interface. And I'm going to use these two machines as my DNS servers. These will be the machines that resolve names to IPs for this device. I use these two DNS servers on all three interfaces. These machines, once I have them fully set up, will be able to resolve internal names and external names. So I can use these two interfaces, these two DNS servers on all my interfaces. They'll be able to resolve public names and my private names in my internal network. Click OK. Click OK. Close. Close this window out. If I wanted to, I could double check everything by opening up a terminal. I'm going to change the resolution so we can see it. So I'm going to do ipconfig all. So for my public interface, I have 10.0.0.2 with a 24-bit subnet mask. My gateway is the school's router, and my two DNS servers, which aren't set up, will be used to resolve names. I can also see the MAC addresses here as well. 56, 8A, and 91. So for the private interface, I'm using 172.16.0.0, a 16-bit subnet mask. I don't put a gateway because the other interface has a gateway. I'm using my two internal DNS servers that can resolve public names and private names. And lastly, my DMZ interface has a IP address of 172.17.0.1, a 16-bit subnet mask, no gateway, and my two internal DNS servers. So I'm just going to type exit to close this window out. And the next thing I'm going to do from my server manager local server is choose my computer name, click change. I'm just going to call this in lowercase Nat. I'm going to click OK, OK, close and allow it to reboot. Okay, my machine's booted. I'm going to press Control-Delete to sign in. Now, in later lessons, I'm going to reconfigure this to do a different purpose. I'm going to set up a VPN server. But for right now, I just want it to be a NAT router by itself. Later, it's going to be NAT, VPN, and a regular network router. Right now, just routing and NAT. I'm going to wait till this blue bar stops going across. Just like on all servers, we set up the IP address, we set our host name. Now I'm going to install some software. Okay, so now I'm clicking on Manage, Add Roles and Features. You should have done this in Network Plus, set up a NAT router. And when I get to the server role menu, I'm going to go and choose Remote Access. This will install the software for routing, NAT, VPN, and direct access. Right now, we're only using routing and NAT. I'm just going to keep clicking next until I get to role services. What I want to choose is routing. And I want to add all the administrative tools to manage routing. Click Add Features. It automatically selects direct access and VPN. That's fine. We're not using that stuff right now, but it'll be installed. You can install something and not configure it. Direct access is a web server, so it's installing the web service. So I'm not making any change other than server roles and role services. When I get down to confirmation, I'm going to check restart if needed, and then click install. While it's installing, and it could take a while, I'm going to pause the video. Okay, it's installed. I can see it's fully installed. It does take some time. Be patient. If you rush it, sometimes it screws up. You might have to remove it and reinstall it. So it's installed for me. Hopefully that hasn't happened for me. 2019, I noticed a lot of times that it just doesn't work right. The only solution is uninstall the software, then reinstall it. I'm going to click close, and you can remove it from here. You just go through this wizard, you choose remote access, uninstall the software, reboot, then reinstall it, and it generally works fine. So now that it's installed, I'm going to go to Tools, Routing and Remote Access, highlight my server, right-click it, say Configure and Enable Routing and Remote Access. Click Next. We're going to set up NAT right now, not VPN. Or VPN and NAT, we're just choosing NAT. If we were just doing routing, we would choose this one. If we were doing NAT alone and routing, choose this one. If you're doing routing, VPN, and NAT, choose this one. If you're just doing routing and VPN, choose this one. We're just doing routing and NAT. This glitch is common. You don't see any in your interfaces. Press cancel, right click, configure and enable, choose NAT, then you see your interfaces. So you need to be aware that if you don't see your interfaces, cancel, redo it. It's a very common glitch in 2016 and 2019. So the first thing it's asking us on the first screen is, what's your public interface? Public. That's going to be the interface we use NAT on. Then it's going to ask you which is your private interface that you want to provide internet access to. Well, we want to do both, but this wizard only allows us to choose one. So I don't care which one you choose. I'm going to choose DMZ. Once we get inside and everything's configured, we'll add the second network. Click Next, then Finish. I'm going to drill down NAT IPv4, not IPv6, IPv4, choose NAT. I'm going to right click and add a new interface. Now I'm going to add the interface the wizard wouldn't allow me to add. I'm going to add the private network. And it's a private network. So this interface is going to be used to do the NAT. Every time a packet gets passed across this interface, it'll pull out the private IP and put in the public and forward it onto the internet. This is for the machine itself, the NAT router itself. It's a private network. If you don't have it, just right click here, say new interface. I don't have any more, but you want to choose new interface and choose the internal network and make it a private interface. DMZ is private and private is private. So if I open up a command prompt, I'm just going to change the default so I don't keep having to do this. I don't know why this is glitching out. Okay, so I'm just going to do ping 8.8.8.8. And there it starts to go through. Don't try to ping by name because we don't have name resolution set up yet. So only try to ping by IP. But right now I can reach the internet no problem. So I'm going to type exit to close this window. Close this window, and our NAT router is fully configured now. These tools right here use something called an MMC, Microsoft Management Console, and you just add snap-ins to it. For me, it just crashed. Just keep clicking OK until it goes away. It has nothing to do with the service. It's just the utility to display a snap-in crash. Not a big deal. Just close it out. This machine is configured. The next two machines we're going to configure are the two eDNS servers, eDNS1 and eDNS2. So that's it for this video. Thank you.